Hello and welcome to the Rogue Monkey podcast, the show that shares insightful stories to motivate, inspire and support you following your dreams on your own journeys through work and life. Thank you everyone for the lovely comments from last week's episode where we spoke to Apple TV's resident motorbike enthusiast Charlie Borman. If you've not checked out that conversation yet, be sure to head back to episode 65, but of course only after you've listened to today's show. For episode 66, we are speaking to someone I've known for a long time and followed their inspiring journey with fascination. Kathryn Cook is an incredible entrepreneur who has forged a business in the virtual space off the back of a meandering career that included some time in the Royal Navy. In this discussion, we explore the challenges of founding a business, having the confidence to change paths, and how Kathryn navigated all of that whilst being a parent. Just before we dive into the discussion, please make sure you've subscribed to the show so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And afterwards, if you enjoyed the conversation, please give us a quick rate and review, as it does help the show reach more people, which we are super passionate about. As always, if you want to know more about the podcast, the team, or any of our other activities, please head over to our website, theroguemonkey.org. Right, let's get into our second episode of Season 9 and episode 66 of the Rogue Monkey podcast. Kathryn Cook, developing the confidence to thrive as a female entrepreneur. Hello, Kathryn. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really excited to have you on. We obviously go a long way back, all the way to our school years. So it's exciting to kind of pull these our various stories together to go full circle. But if you can give our listeners and viewers just a quick introduction as to who you are and I guess your summary journey so far.
Okay, so my name is Kathryn Cook. I am a virtual assistant for the hair and beauty industry. And I've been running my business now for just over a year. So I started it in lockdown. So that's a real small part of my journey.
Okay, so let's go back to where it all started, because I think there's probably people out there who are coming off the back of what's been a really difficult couple of years. They've gone through the education system, schools, sixth form, colleges and that sort of thing. And they're thinking, right, what comes next? Talk us through that period of time for you, because that journey from there to where you are now is a fascinating one.
Okay, so well, I met you at school, so that's where, and then I left school, so I didn't actually stay to do my A-levels, and then I got a job and I realised actually this is a bit boring, so naturally I wanted a challenge. So the next step for me was to join the Royal Navy, which a lot of people are really surprised when I tell them, because they're like, oh God, look at you, you're really girly. But I needed a challenge, and so I joined the Navy when I was 19 and I stayed there for 6 years.
Awesome.
So that's where I started.
And that on its own is having known many people who have gone through that military experience. Like, it's a fascinating journey by itself, but how that's impacted it to what come next when you decided to step out of that and then go back into, I guess, the working world on mainland. What was that period of time like, and how did you find some direction at that point, having literally gone straight from school into basically the Navy?
Oh yeah, well, very scary. I think once you join the military, and for me it was only a real short period of my life, but it's a completely different world, and you sort of think when you leave that everyone's going to be your friend, and it's because it's so social. And when I left, it was like I just hit the ground like, oh my God, what am I actually doing? But I went back to college to study, because at that time I wanted to be a midwife. So I've had loads of different ideas in general, but that's what I wanted to do. And then it went from then. I just thought, actually, I didn't then go to be a midwife. I did go to university, but for a very short period of time, to study to be, it's exercise science. And then I thought, no, I've got to go back into the working world. So that was an interesting journey for me, because I thought, well, I need to go back to school or college or uni to really push forward with my career and my life. And then I realized, no, I don't think this is for me. So then I dropped out of that and went into the 9 to 5.
That's fascinating. And I think there's so many people out there who feel, and I guess if we go back a couple of generations, you went to school, college, got your job, and you stayed in that career for 40 years and then you retired and that was it. Whereas actually it's a very different world now. And I think it's really nice to hear from somebody who's been through that journey of saying, I tried something for a little while, it wasn't authentic to me, so I'm going to go over here and try something else, and actually finding that path that works for you as a person, and not necessarily being told by someone else from outside, you should do this, you must do this. So I'm really curious as to, I guess, what did give you that confidence to say, no, this isn't for me, and try somewhere else? Can you pinpoint that on anything, or is that just, I guess,
Is that from going back to school and then coming back out again?
Yeah.
I just thought, actually, for one, if I'm totally honest with you, university is very, very expensive. So I was like, okay, is this really what I want? And then I thought, well, I thought I was good at my job, because whilst I was in the Navy, I worked sort of in, as well as you do your general Navy stuff, you have to do that as well. You have to do the firefighting, all of that exciting stuff, I suppose other people from the outside would think. But I was working in like administration and like the business side of things, payroll. So I thought, well, I have got these skills, so I'll just drop back into the workplace. And then as soon as I got back into the workplace of like the 9 to 5, as I always say, I love to challenge the 9 to 5, but I was like, okay, this is all right, but it's still quite boring. So I mean, the Navy wasn't boring, it just wasn't for me long term. But then when I actually got back into a job again, like a proper job, obviously I can't say the Navy's not a proper job, because of course it is, but it's a completely different job. It's a life basically. But so then I went into the 9 to 5, doing sort of PA EA work, which I actually really enjoy, because obviously now I'm a virtual assistant, so of course I still have an element of that now. But and that's where I started to really, really learn, and that is where my journey to starting my own business really, really started.
So let's talk about that journey of starting your own business, because I think there's a lot of people out there who have that notebook when they're sitting down over maybe Christmas and go, I've got this idea, and they write it down, and that's where it stops. So going from wherever that first thought spawns that actually, oh, I could do this potentially as a business that I'm going to do on the side and it will grow and develop. How did it go from that concept in your head to where it is now?
Well, to where it is now, I mean, it has been a long journey of, I thought about this for a very, very long time, but I would never have been able to start this business without the knowledge I got from working in the positions I worked in after I left the Navy, because I worked directly under basically entrepreneurs, online startups. So for me, learning from them is what then made me think, well, hang on a second, I can do this myself, and I can run my business. So in a nutshell, that's what I've had to learn from them for me to get to this point now. I always wanted my own business. I think when I had my daughter, I thought, right, I need to, I mean, it's a lot of work-life balance. I thought, right, I really want to run my own business, but I still wasn't ready. So I just had to go into another position to learn more. And then naturally, it was a natural progression for me.
So I'm curious about something, being both coming out, I guess, into a non-traditional role and going into this world of, being a PA and all of those sorts of things, and starting to form this idea that you want to do a business as a startup, and having a daughter and being a parent. Though, like you said there, the balance of that is extremely difficult. So what's been, I guess, some of the things that you look back on and think, wow, that, looking back at the time, you probably just did it because you had to do it. But we're looking back, what were the things that were like, wow, I can't believe I actually did that. Can't believe I got through that, because businesses are hard on their own. And any parents out there will also know parenting on its own is extremely hard. And yet you chose to blend the two things together.
Well, so a transitional point for me, there's two really, because when I had Violet, 2 years later, I then became a single mum. So, but at the same time, I'd taken a what's it called? A pay rise. I've taken a pay rise and a new position in the business, which was in marketing. So it was like really, really scary, because I was like, well, hang on a second. Now I'm a single mum. I don't know what to do. and I've taken on a new role, which it's much harder. I need to know a lot more stuff. So for me, that was like, wow, this is very, very difficult, because I wanted to progress with my career, but I also thought, well, I have got a daughter who's 2, and I've got to obviously manage her as well. So it was very, very, very difficult. And that was when my mindset changed, because I just thought, oh my God, how many women are there thinking, what can I do now? Like you're almost stuck in the system. You're looked at as a single mum, but you want to progress in your career, but financially sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So that's why a lot of women are like, okay, well, I'm going to step back. I'm going to work less, because it's not going to make any difference, especially if you're on universal tax credits. So that was a very, very interesting time for me. But that was the time when I thought, well, hang on, right, I've got to think about what I'm going to do here. So yeah, that was the first one. And that was a very, very interesting journey. And if it wasn't for all the stuff I learned from then onwards, I don't think I'd be here today running my own business.
And what was the second kind of thing? Because I guess coming through all of that, you generate a huge amount of resilience as a person. Like that's not easy. That's not easy going through all that stuff. So that's obviously put you in good stead, I guess, to take that next step going forwards, because you think, if I've come through all of those personal challenges and in the professional world having to work that hard, actually starting a business, I think I can now do this.
Yeah, definitely. I think from that position, which didn't really go the way I thought it would go, to be honest with you. Even though there was a side of me that thought to myself, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm very good at marketing, actually. And then I thought, right, I'm going to leave this job and I'm going to go somewhere else. So I went to my next position, and there I really built up my confidence. I thought, actually, I'm all right at this. I'm not too bad at marketing. I really enjoy it. I love it. But I still couldn't get the balance. I could not get the balance. The work-life balance was awful. Trying to drop my daughter off to nursery, get to work on time. I was like, oh my God. It was so stressful. The stress was ridiculous, because, you know, I love working and I hate letting people down. But also, when you've got responsibility of a child as well, it is really, as a mother, it's really hard. So the next thing for me was in this job, the second job, was okay, I've got to leave. So I just thought, this is it now. I just thought, I've got to leave, because I can't deal with this. It's too much. So I thought, right, I've got to leave and I will figure it out. So that was my next stage.
You know what, the volume of people I've listened to on various podcasts that talk about the hardest part is that step of actually taking a leap of faith, if you like. But like you said, having gone through that journey personally and professionally, that actually you've got a lot of the tools, I guess, on the bookshelf to actually let you take that next step. But that's still very different to going, right, I'm now actually going to hand in my notice, I'm going to move on and actually make this all work. So what was that like the first day when you got home after that happened and you were like, uh-oh, what have I done?
Yeah, because obviously it's massive, especially, you know, financially. You're like, wow, okay. You think to yourself, you almost feel like, I've got to stay. I've got to do this because I need to earn money. But then I thought, no, I've got to look at the bigger picture here, and I'm really not happy because I can't get this balance that I really want. Something's got to give, and it was the job. So at that point I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will get there. But yeah, coming to that decision is very hard. But when you've got to just trust your gut instinct on that, you've got to. And I did. And luckily, I've got a very, very good support network as well. I mean, you do need a support network. At that time, I wasn't living, my family wasn't close by, just my brother. So it was, it was an interesting period of my life. But luckily, that they said, well, you know, you can still work remote. So I said, okay, I'll still do a few hours for you remotely. And then we went into COVID. So, you know, things changed.
See, that period for a lot of people is such a defining period of time. Both obviously have some really negative things that impacted a lot of people's lives, but there was also some incredible opportunities that perhaps 2 or 3 years ago no one would have even thought about. And one of the things I'm keen to delve into is this passion you have around supporting women in business. And it almost seems like a lot of the threads for that was sown in your personal and professional journey to get to the point where you started your own business. So can we just talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, it's nothing against men or anything like that. I've worked when I was in the Navy, it's very male dominated. When I was working in my other roles, heavily male dominated industries, construction, and haulage. So for me, I'd always worked in those sort of worlds, and obviously there's females there, but it is men. So becoming a single mum made me realize, right, okay, there's a lot of other people going through the same as me. So that I started to become quite passionate, more so about supporting women, because I obviously understood what it was like to be a mum, want to progress, want to do something for myself. I thought, no, I want to really support women in their businesses now. And I wasn't quite sure how. Maybe it was just to be a PA, because obviously I was so used to doing that sort of stuff, spreadsheets or just diarising anything I was told to do naturally. But what I realised was marketing and helping women grow their businesses, alongside myself growing my own business, was the way to go for me.
That's a really interesting point, I guess, for you, because you've actually kind of merged this professional journey with some of your personal passions. And I think there's that old saying, find something you absolutely love and want to pour your heart into. You don't feel like you're actually working a day again, because it's something you are so passionate about. So one of the things, I guess, in the modern day and age is a lot of people can find 1,001 things that are the struggles and the things that went wrong and all of those sorts of things, but we don't often take time to appreciate the things that have gone well. So on this journey, once you've started this business, did you actually then sit there at some point and go, oh my God, I've actually done it? Or do you constantly just keep moving forwards without taking that reflection time? I'm curious what that was like for you.
Okay, so I initially started this because I obviously wanted the balance. I wanted to earn money, of course, but it was more about the balance and the freedom. So that is the reason why I started my own business. Also, I used to think, well, if someone else can do it, why can't I? So I obviously do like to challenge myself. I've always challenged myself. Joining the Navy was a huge challenge. No one thought I could do it. I was just like, I'm just going to do it, okay? And this is how I felt about this business. And yes, what was the question? I just feel like I've just.
I think. No, I think that the thing is it's really easy to get into this business world, if you like, and it almost feels like a treadmill that never stops.
Yes.
Have you had any moments where you've actually sat down, whether that's within your working environment or whether, like you said, about that balance, where you're actually sitting down with Violet and having some time away and thinking, I'm in an okay place. This is going okay.
Yes. So once I started the business, I started off in the October 20, and I started on this little, like say, like the treadmill, and I got a client, just so happened to be a permanent makeup artist, and I got another client who was a salon owner. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I'm sort of like going into this hair and beauty world, which I haven't been in before. But I thought, how do I, even though I knew a lot about marketing, I thought, how am I going to attract these people, and am I going to give up? So I was concerned I would give up easily, meaning I was concerned I'd give up after a few months if I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. So I got a business coach, and that was the best thing I ever did. I just knew that I needed a business coach to give me a strategy to keep going. And with the business coach comes the celebrating of your different stages. So of course, for me, a huge stage was when I was able to just say, okay, I'm working full-time in my business now. Now that was massive, because I just was like, wow, I'm actually earning enough money to be running a business. I've got good clients, and it only took me about 5 months to get to that position. So I was working for in my last role remotely, less hours than I was doing before. But for me to say, okay, right, I don't really need them anymore. I don't need that. That was a massive turning point for me. And then but saying that, it is a celebration, but I remember being on the phone call to my business coach and just crying for probably about half an hour, because I was like, oh my God, this is actually really scary. This is really scary. So, yeah.
It's interesting. And I can really empathize with you, because last year I remember going through, having been in a very stable job for 4 years, spent about, by that point, it would have been close to a year through the first year of the COVID period. And I just got to that point where I was like, I need this new challenge. I want to take the next step. And I remember having a really frank conversation with my now boss in the January of last year and saying, I've got to do it. Like, I've got to take this step because I need the challenge, but also I feel like I'm not getting, not necessarily the best balance, because I haven't got kids, but actually for me, it was very much around, I don't feel like the boxes I'm looking for in my life are currently getting ticked right now.
Yeah.
And that was really, really interesting to take that step. And I remember clicking send on my resignation, and like almost feeling like the blood draining out of my face, going, oh my God, what have I done? And that first month, and then you have like almost the honeymoon periods where you have your last day, you give all your kit back, and then you sit there on day one, you're like, uh-oh, what now? And it's a really exciting thing to go on. And I think often a lot of people only experience that once or twice in their working careers. Mm-hmm. Whereas having gone through that journey, you've gone on, and I've certainly been through a number of roles over the last 18 years. Actually, you get that kind of excitement, almost like that a lot of people, I say, that just are too afraid to take it. But actually, when you get there, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, I feel like once you're on it, you can't stop. And the problem, well, it's not a problem. The thing is, you got to keep going. You've got to present yourself with new challenges, and the world is changing. And I work with women with growing their businesses online, so I'm all about getting them seen online. And in the online world, there's just lots of people doing lots of things, and you almost feel like, oh my God, like, I've got to keep up with you. But of course, you can launch a business and do what I thought I was going to do, which was the swapping money for hour virtual assistant wise. I've charged this, you're going to buy 10 hours off me. But I feel so happy that I still do that, but I feel so happy that I've progressed naturally since I started it, because I niched down. Niching down was the best thing ever. That's probably the best advice I could give anybody, is to niche down, because then you sort of only having to worry about one pot of people. And obviously, when you're marketing, you can't be everything to everybody.
I think that's something that a lot of startup businesses get caught up in, is trying to change the world where actually they haven't even got a brand recognition within their own town. And actually, like you said, with the niching, what you can get is that absolute clarity of who your market is, how do you market yourself for that market, but also the language of how people relate to each other within a certain sector. Like, good news travels via word of mouth or social media. Yes. So if you're targeting a niche, and you've done something really good for a company, and the founder and the CEO puts up on their Instagram or their Twitter, we've been working with KV Online and it's going really, really well, the chances are the people in their immediate network are also your target market. So it's a Absolutely. Really interesting thing to get to that point. So, I mean, you've given us one tip already going through this business journey. And there are so many, I think it's 1 in 5 people now leaving education are looking to start their own business. So I'm sure there's a lot of young entrepreneurs listening to this. You've given us one tip, find your niche. What other things have you learned along the way that you want to pass on?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm at the peak of my success. I mean, I would say my success for me is setting out to do something I wanted to do, achieving that. I'm running my business the way I want to run it. I suppose another tip would be to stay true to yourself. You can easily get caught up, especially if it's just you. But you have to sort of like bring yourself back to your own values, and that's all about branding, how you position yourself. That's really important. not just taking on people because you feel like you need to, not just working with them because if it doesn't really make you happy. With the clients I have, I love working with them. So when they say, oh, I've got this, so I work with salon owners, clinic owners, freelancers, but I also work with online educators, which is really good. So I help them market because they're online, their whole business is online. So, when they have ideas I love all the idea generation, but yeah, it is finding your niche and staying true to what you really want to do and who you want to work with. That is a better key to success in yourself, really, I think.
Brilliant. So I know we've all learned the lessons of not looking too far ahead because we know how quickly things can change at the moment. But actually, if I said to you in 12 months' time, you had to list, a few things off that actually you're aspiring to work towards, having now gone through this period where you've taken the leap of faith, you've done it, you've built up the clients, you've got a great online profile now, what would be the next step for you in terms of things that you're aspiring towards?
Okay, so I will be launching a membership soon. So this is something I never thought I'd ever be doing, to obviously reach more people, to create a community and to really help them with marketing themselves and their businesses, because this has been created based on everything I've learned since I started my business and the problems I've seen a lot of people come across, which I really like to think that I help them with. There's a lot of overwhelm, because of the way we are now. For example, a salon owner never had to worry about marketing online. Yes, okay, might have Facebook, Instagram's massive now. They may have had a website, might not, relied a lot on word of mouth. So to be propelled into this world where we're expected to be online, and it's quite easy for people to find somebody else if you're not. So there's a lot of overwhelm there. So my aspiration is to build my membership to help more people with all the aspects that I know that are problems for them, and they feel like they can't solve them, but they're easily solvable, and to help them to get found online and just really position themselves. So I just want to grow this group over the next year and see how I get on. Just got to go with the flow, haven't you? I mean, of course I've got target, because you sort of have to, if you don't have a goal, how can you achieve it? So you can't just go along thinking, oh yeah, that might be good. You do have to set yourself goals. But yeah, my goal is to grow that and to just have a lovely community where I can help more people. Yeah.
I love that idea of community, because I think the thread that runs through all the podcasts that I've done now over the last 2 years is actually people sharing their stories. Ultimately are sharing it because they're from a background of wherever they are in the world and whatever their career is, where actually they enjoy helping people. You wouldn't come on a podcast and share your story if you're not looking to help people. So yeah. I've really enjoyed all of this. Now there's one thing I have to ask now, reflecting across the whole period of time. So let's go back to 12-year-old Kathryn back in school, and you could give her message, having gone through everything that you've now gone through. What would you go back and say?
Well, I'll probably say, don't be so shy. I was very shy when I was younger. People think, no, you weren't. I just think, just be yourself. And actually, being yourself will move you further, will move you up further. You can't be anyone but yourself. Always say this. I say this to people that my clients, everyone, people that ring me because I was just stuck. I was like, look, if people don't like you, they're not going to buy from you anyway. Does it really matter? There's always going to be somebody else that does what you do. But at the end of the day, if someone likes you, they're going to come to you. So just own it.
That's a really interesting point to bring it all together, because I think we're heading into a world where this authenticity and the way people relate to any brand or any product or any service comes back to more than just the product. It actually comes back to that personal relationship, and especially doing the nature of the work you're doing, there is that relationship aspect. So, you can't put a mask on for 40 hours a week. That's not possible.
No, sometimes I put up these, I've grown my business on social media, right? So sometimes I put up stories on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, why did I just put that up? That's so embarrassing. And I thought, no, it doesn't matter, because if someone doesn't like you, it doesn't matter. Lots of people get caught up on, oh my God, someone's unsubscribed, someone's unfollowed me. Who cares? They're never going to buy from you anyway. So it's fine.
There was, I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but it was somebody talking about other people's perceptions of other people who are watching them or following them on social media. And they're like, you think people care? They really don't. It's like in a fraction of a second, they'll just scroll their thumb further up the screen if they're not interested.
Exactly. The same with life, isn't it? I always talk about it. So I just like, things happen in life and you think people are really bothered, but actually they're only really bothered about themselves, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But it's just, why always worry about what other people think of you?
Yeah, it's such a true way, and some really good stuff in there for people that, as I said, are just getting started on this journey. And it's been really inspiring to hear your story. I know we met up a few years ago pre-COVID, and actually it was really nice to see that journey you've been on. So I think it's going to be really exciting looking forwards now. Seeing where it's got to is really inspiring, but going forwards, it's really exciting as to what comes next. So, It will be. It will. And as I said, we're going to make sure we include, the links to what you're up to, because I think just the story itself is fascinating. But when people actually look at your social media, like I take a lot from that in terms of my business. I look at it and think, wow, Kat's really got this nailed in how she's doing it. So it's been really exciting exploring it with you. And thank you so much for your time today.
That's okay. And I'm really hoping my brother's going to be coming on this soon as well. I messaged him this morning. So you got to go on this podcast.
That would be the first siblings that I've had on the podcast. I've had partners, I've had colleagues, but I've never had siblings on there. So something to look forward to in the summer, hopefully.
100%.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Kat. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. And don't forget, we've got a back catalogue of content that goes all the way back to January 2020, including fighter pilots, Olympic champions, TV presenters, and inspiring authors. We'd really appreciate it if you can give us a quick rate and review, however you're joining us today. And if you don't want to miss out on any future episodes, make sure you hit subscribe. Our community update drops once a month, and we've got some great guest content being added, so be sure to sign up for that. And finally, we're all about inspiring and supporting as many people as possible. So if you can share this episode with one person that you think would enjoy it, that would be really, really cool. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Rogue Monkey Podcast.